Hey, greetings. Welcome back to my channel. This is Michael here, and I am going to talk today about another camera. And this is actually going to be probably the last time that I talk explicitly about a camera. I have other things that I want to talk about in the sort of photography and filmmaking sphere, and I'll get to those a little bit later. But I have a special treat. In this particular case, it's a camera that I never owned, that I always wanted to, and it just so happens that now in 2026 you can get it for about $200, which blows my mind. Again, it's because it's 20 years old, so that's part of it. The last video I did, I walked around Aputure with the Canon 60, which is a camera I've had for 14 years, and I just shot with a 50mm lens and took some street type photos and put them up. And if you haven't seen it, go back, check it out. It's just me kind of with an action camera shooting around an area that I like to shoot at, and I visit frequently actually on my work breaks just to kind of like pass the time. But I mentioned in that video that I had picked up a camera that I never got to shoot with, and it was sort of like one of those misses and missed opportunities, I guess you could say. And it just so happens that it's kind of coming back around, and it's sort of cool and a little bit in vogue at the moment again. And I have some thoughts on why I think that is, and I'll come to that later. But I mentioned that I picked it up and I was going to tease some images and then drop it. But I've been shooting with it for almost 4 weeks now, and I have a ton of photos that I've taken with it, and I just loved every moment of it. And actually, someone guessed what the camera was in that video. In the comment, somebody said, you have to be talking about you ready for it? The Canon 5D Classic, the Classic 5D. And they were not wrong. This is the one camera that I wanted to own so bad when I was in high school, like late high school, early college. I wanted it so bad I could never afford it. And now literally I bought this camera on KEH for $200. And I still had a Canon 50 1.8 lens and another lens, which I'll show you in a minute, that I really while this is a great setup, there's one lens that I've been using even more than that. And I'll show you which one that it is too. But let me give you some backstory. So when I started getting into photography, I was probably like 16, 17, and I bought a camera, the Canon PowerShot Pro 1, which was basically like an advanced point and shoot camera. It was an awesome camera, and I found it the other day. It doesn't work. Like nothing on it works. I don't know if there's a way to fix it. I have no idea. It's dead at this point. But it was what really was kind of my first introduction into composing images, lighting, flash, no flash, aperture, shutter speed. I took it with me everywhere. I went to concerts all the time with it, and I would take photos, and it was like my gateway drug into photography. And right around the time that I finished high school and I was about to look at like maybe going to a photography program or a film program, I was actually an English major for a year. And while I was doing that, I picked up another camera, the Canon 10D. That was my first DSLR. And it was a little bit older at that time. Like the 20D had just come out to replace it. So it was a bit dated. It was a 6 megapixel DSLR, but I loved that thing. I used it all the time. Literally did photo shoots with it, shot everything with it. It was so much fun to like have a DSLR and to have this big bodied camera and to do all kinds of stuff with it. I learned how to use flash with it. I took it to concerts. I did portrait shoots. I did weddings with it. I used it on the set of our film school classes. I did all kinds of stuff with that camera. And it went with me all throughout college. And it wasn't until after college that I started looking at potential replacements, which I ended up with a Canon T1i because it was the first one that shot video and did it terribly, but it was a thing. Then replaced it with the Canon 7D. And then later when the 6D came out, that was my main camera for a while. So those were my cameras. So I've been really embedded in the Canon ecosystem in the DSLR rage. But if there's one camera that I always wanted, never had the chance to get, it was this camera here, the Canon 5D. I remember reading so many blogs, watching so many other photographers shoot, and just always noticing that they had a 5D. There was a local photographer who had a 5D and I wanted it. There was a photographer that I looked up to at a 5D that I wanted it. Out of college, when I worked for a wedding studio that did video, down in the same like shared space, there was also a portrait photographer who shot a bunch of studio stuff with a Hasselblad, and then on location, 5D. And I can never afford it, but I wanted it so bad. And by the time I could actually afford it, there was better replacements for it. I'll just go down the list of what it was. Even the Canon 60 today is technically better than this camera, this 12 megapixel full frame camera. But as the way things are, things come full circle. And these cameras have popped back into our collective conscious. And I think that's partially because like the way the world has shaped and shifted over the years, there's so much advancements in mirrorless cameras that make them awesome, but they also kind of like, there's so much computational software in them that makes them feel less organic. And at first we started looking back to older film cameras, and then film, of course, is expensive. So then now we're kind of like in this Digicam DSLR era, where I think we're looking for something that gives us not just the look of film, but more importantly, the feeling and the emotion that we had when we were shooting those early digital cameras, which the Canon 5D really is a continuation of this sort of early design style of like the late SLRs that Canon was producing. So I actually have this camera, the EOS 3, which is a film camera, and I won't get rid of this camera. I love this camera so much. And it's why I still have some EF lenses actually. This camera technically is more advanced than this one. Has more autofocus points, it has more AF points, its ergonomics are slightly better than the 5D, yet these two feel like brothers, like they literally come from the same cloth. And so if you were a film shooter, the 5D was kind of like your transitionary camera, like to get you away from film. And I think that's an important aspect of why this camera is becoming so popular, is because when you pick this up, if you've ever handled one of these older film cameras like the EOS 3 or the EOS 1N, it just feels like a continuation of that era of photography. And I think that is really what we're looking for when we're looking for these older cameras, is like, not just do the images look cool or do they have a vibe or whatever, but also like, how does it feel? Does it feel like something we would have used before? And the 5D is definitely that camera. It's a very limited camera. It's 12 megapixels. It has a very limited amount of features on the feature dial. Honestly, this little screen is not the greatest, and mine has like kind of a green cast to it. So I never really use it for reference. It's only at 9 autofocus points. But all of the limitations are what actually makes it brilliant. It's hard to explain, but like, as soon as I picked this up, within literally 2 minutes, I was out shooting. Like it just knew it. I just knew it so well. And one of the things that I love so much about these cameras is just the simplicity of them. They really do feel, these older DSLRs really do feel very similar to shooting on film. And the look, again, it's not like some people have described this as the infinite roll of Kodak Portra. I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely has a vibe, and it's definitely closer to film than most digital sensors now. And I think, again, it's because of its limitations. It is very limited, right? Like 12 megapixels, doesn't have a ton of dynamic range. It's about the same as 35 millimeter film as far as like its latitude. And because of that, I think that's what makes it feel very filmic when you're shooting with it. Anyway, all that to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed shooting with this camera. I've been using the 50 millimeter 1.8, which is what I kind of had caked on. And then I remembered when I bought my EOS 3 that it came with this lens here, which is the EF 28 millimeter 2.8 lens. Will it focus? Focus. This guy, 28 2.8, not the IS lens, the original. And I have loved using this, especially like just for everyday usage and with a flash. That combination, flash plus this guy, oh, love it. It gives me a Martin Parr look, and I absolutely love it. So without further ado, I'm going to show you some images. Some are with the 50, some are with the 28. Let me know what you think. Okay, so what do you think of those photos? I mentioned before that I had been using flash with it as well. I've been carrying around this little guy. This is the Godox IA32. A very cool flash. I actually still have my Canon flash from this era that I used to shoot with, and it still works. I think it was the 550EX. But this guy is just kind of really small, and I love the form factor of it. It also has kind of a cool trick up its hood. You can put it in full manual, or it has this auto ISO controls where you can set your ISO and your aperture. And this tiny little sensor here kind of gives a scene readout and basically sort of like guesstimates the output that you would need. And it's really awesome. It even tells you, it has a distance scale to tell you like how much in focus something is. The other trick up the sleeve of this flash, the IA32, is that it can swivel and bounce. All the images that you saw are barely edited. So what I do is I actually take a little card reader, I just import it directly into Lightroom on my phone. I'm shooting all RAW because RAW images on a 12 megapixel sensor are smaller than JPEGs from bigger sensors. And then I apply the camera profile, which is the standard profile. And then from there, I might add some contrast, maybe boost the shadows. I'll usually like bump up the clarity a hair, and then add some grain. And that's it. That's all I do. That's literally it. I don't do anything else because there is kind of a look to these images. Again, it's not film, it's early digital, but it has a vibe. And I think that's what's part of the pull to something like this. The other thing that I think why people are picking up older cameras altogether, like the 5D Classic and the D7 or 800, is simply because of resistance. I think we're intrigued by these cameras because we kind of want to push back against the machine. So a lot of the things that a Sony camera can do, the Lumix camera like I have right here filming right now, they're all amazing. But subconsciously, there's so much computational aspects going on behind. The camera is making a lot of decisions that I feel like I'm not making a lot of decisions. And I think getting this older technology, like these older cameras, kind of gives us a way of like sort of fighting the machine to some degree and exerting our autonomy over these devices, allowing us to choose what we focus on, allowing us to choose what our settings are going to be. There's no auto ISO, there's no, like, it's very limited in its features and its capabilities. And I think that's part of the reason why we're drawn to older tech and to film. And so would I recommend the Canon 5D Classic? Well, yes, I would. If you can find a good one that's like in a clean copy, it's hard to beat something like this, a full frame camera that's digital, that has a really interesting look to it, that's almost filmic, that has a lot of limitations, but at the same time has a lot of nostalgia and a lot of clarity and like a really beautiful vibe to it. It's hard to find something like that. $200, it's your gateway into the EF lens system, which is massive and has so many fantastic options and unsung heroes like this 28 that I discovered, although while it's very noisy, is actually a really great lens. And I think if you pick something like this up, you'll just find yourself wanting to carry it more and more places. And that's what a good camera is all about. Doesn't matter how much it costs. If it makes you want to shoot, that's good. I'm going to continue shooting with this 5D because I love to. I love its limitations. I love that, after ISO 800, it looks really grainy and it's sort of not the greatest thing. I love how it works with the flash. And most importantly, I love how simple my editing setup is. I literally just take the picture, make some very mild adjustments on my phone, and it's ready to go. And it looks good. I wish I had had this back in the day, but I feel like if I did, I wouldn't have appreciated it quite as much as I do now. I love the simplicity, and I think it's a great way to shoot. And I think if I were just getting into photography, or if I just want to get back into a more simpler way of photography, $200 for a Canon 5D is hard to beat. So I give it 2 thumbs up. And I'm going to keep shooting with it, and I'll keep sharing those images. Do you have a Canon 5D Classic? Would you shoot with this? Would you use this as your main camera? Quite honestly, right now, I am, and I'm enjoying it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Go in peace.